This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Trump's tariffs against Mexico and Canada go into effect. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
New details surrounding the helicopter commuter jet collision in Washington, D.C. Correspondent Julie Walker has that, and Marco Rubio's stern message to Panama.
Billionaire Elon Musk frustrated that some are seemingly pushing back on DOGE. I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, investors are talking about tariffs. After a winning January for stocks, February trading begins this morning. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries facing backlash after his "fight it in the streets" comment last week. I'm Pamela Furr.
What Phil saw and what that means for us. All ahead on America in the Morning. As promised, President Trump's proposed 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the country from Mexico and Canada are now in effect. Officials from America's neighbors to the north and south are reacting. John Stolnis has the latest from Washington.
Speaking to reporters at Joint Base Andrews, the president said he's not concerned about a trade war with Mexico and Canada, and that the tariffs he's putting into place will be good for American businesses in the long run, but maybe not right away.
We may have short-term a little pain, and people understand that, but long-term, the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world. We have deficits with almost every country, not every country, but almost. And we're going to change it.
One of the primary reasons Trump won a second term in office was his promise to lower inflation that has remained sticky since the end of COVID. However, Tyler Evans, a resident from rural Smithton, Pennsylvania, says he's willing to give the president the benefit of the doubt for now.
Initially, right now, like Canada and Mexico, the tariffs on them are basically so that they can help us out with some of the fentanyl and some of the problems that are coming through. But I don't think the tariffs will be too bad.
Canadian and Mexican officials wasted no time reacting to the tariffs. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau responded by levying their own 25% tariffs on $155 billion worth of American goods, such as beer, wine, and bourbon, fruits and fruit juices, vegetables, perfumes, and colognes.
As I have consistently said, tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk, potentially shutting down American auto assembly plants and other manufacturing facilities. They will raise costs for you, including food at the grocery stores and gas at the pump.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said, Mexico does not want confrontation. We start from a place of collaboration between neighboring countries. She did announce retaliatory tariffs as well, but didn't give details. President Trump says he's enacting the tariffs to urge Canada and Mexico to do more to prevent fentanyl and undocumented migrants from reaching the United States.
It's been unfair. That's why we owe $36 trillion. We have deficits with everybody. We help everybody. We've been helping everybody for years. And to be honest, I don't think they appreciate it.
Trump is also threatening the European Union and potentially the United Kingdom with tariffs as well, saying there is a trade imbalance between the EU and the U.S. that needs to be addressed. John Stolnis, Washington.
Preliminary data from the deadliest U.S. aviation accident in nearly 25 years showed conflicting readings about the altitudes of an airliner and Army helicopter when they collided over the Potomac River next to Reagan Airport. Speaking to Fox News, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth assures Americans that everything will be looked at to determine what led to the fatal mid-air collision. Following the story, Correspondent Julie Walker.
Was the Black Hawk too high? Was it on course? Right now, we don't quite know. But what I want to tell your viewers and the nation is we will get to the bottom of what happened here. It's completely unacceptable.
The Army identifying Captain Rebecca Lobach from North Carolina as the third soldier who died in the mid-air collision between a Black Hawk helicopter and an American Airlines plane near Reagan Airport in D.C. Wednesday, killing 67 people. Her family had wanted her name withheld when the other two Army members were ID'd.
When we received the recorders from the CRJ, we were able to define an altitude of where it was very close to the time of impact. That is a data point we feel very comfortable with.
Also, the NTSB now saying data shows conflicting altitude readings for the aircrafts.
The CRJ was at 325 feet, plus or minus 25 feet. We also, initial preliminary data right now indicates that on the tower's radar scope that was available to the controller, initial data indicates that he may have seen 200 feet.
NTSB investigator Bryce Bannock.
This is a complex investigation. There's a lot of pieces here. Our team is working very hard to gather this data, make sure we, as Member Inman has said, understand why this happened.
They still need to analyze the black box from the Black Hawk, which was waterlogged. One air traffic controller was handling both aircraft. He'd asked the Black Hawk if they had visuals, and the answer was yes.
Aircraft inside precision separation.
Then the crash happened. That tower audio courtesy Live ATC. I'm Julie Walker.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Sleep better together. Save 50% on the new Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Limited time, exclusively at a Sleep Number store. Stop DOGE, get fired. That's when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Over a dozen states are under a winter weather advisory. Let's get the Monday forecast from AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A west to east flow of moisture promotes continued active conditions through the northern United States today, and this means snow as the latest cold front drops southward across the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and portions of the Northeast, not all that far from the Canadian border. The snow should be rather steady at times from the Dakotas into Wisconsin, especially early in the day, before spreading into northern New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire by day's end. Snow totals through tonight are expected to reach at least 1 to 3 inches from central North Dakota and northern South Dakota through northern Wisconsin and into northern New England, with some areas of up to 6 inches, most likely around the border of the Dakotas and toward far northern lower Michigan. Localized snowfall of up to a foot may be measured in the highest peaks among the Green and White Mountains as well as the Adirondacks. Farther to the west, wet weather continues around parts of Northern California that were quite hard hit over the weekend, with a fire hose of Pacific moisture continuing to pour heavy rain and mountain snow over the region. Today brings the heaviest precipitation from north of San Francisco across much of the rest of Northern California, with showers extending into northern parts of the Central Valley. There can be some heavy snow into central and eastern Oregon at times as well, with snow showers again able to reach cities such as Seattle, perhaps also mixing in around Portland, Oregon. Snowfall may total 3 to 6 inches or more in the highest elevations of the Sierra Nevada through Tuesday, with the highest rain of up to a foot from the foothills of the Sierra into some of the high ground of the coast ranges. For the rest of the nation, milder air continues its advance, taking high temperatures 10 to 20 degrees above historical averages for many. In Green Bay, Wisconsin, look for snow and some flurries today with a high of 33. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's a mainly sunny and very warm Monday with a high of 75. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. In his first trip abroad as Secretary of State, Marco Rubio has delivered a warning to the president of Panama. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
On a visit to Panama, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is telling Panamanian President Jose Raul Mulino that his country must immediately reduce Chinese influence over the Panama Canal area or face potential retaliation from the Trump administration. Rubio, on his first foreign trip as America's top diplomat, held face-to-face talks with Mulino, who later said that there's no real threat of retaking the canal or the use of force. President Donald Trump has demanded that the canal be returned to U.S. control, and Rubio told Mulino that Trump had made a preliminary determination that China's presence in the canal area violates a treaty that led to the U.S. turning the waterway over to Panama in 1999. I'm Donna Warder.
The Director of U.S. Agency for International Development's Director of Security and his deputy are on administrative leave after being accused of trying to stop employees from the Department of Government Efficiency from accessing secure USAID systems. Following the story, our correspondent Clayton Neville.
The USAID security director and deputy were reportedly placed on leave Saturday after attempting to prevent employees from the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, from accessing some of its systems. DOGE is overseen by billionaire Elon Musk, and the DOGE team apparently tried to access personnel files and some security systems, including classified systems that are beyond the security level of some of those DOGE employees. Musk took his frustration to X, where he said that USAID should die and accuse the agency of being a criminal organization. I'm Clayton Neville.
When America in the Morning continues, retaliation tariffs. That after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. A recap on Friday markets and what to expect today on Wall Street. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after the Dow tanked 300 points last Friday, which happened when the White House said tariffs on Mexican and Canadian goods would begin over the weekend. Investors don't want to see tariffs because they're seen as pushing up prices, and if inflation goes up, the Fed may have to raise interest rates to try to control it, which isn't good for stocks. Higher interest rates mean companies have to pay more to borrow money, and that'll hurt profits.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a freak out if there were across-the-board tariffs applied.
BMO's Carol Schleif on CNBC. January was a winning month for stocks, though. If you have an S&P 500 index fund in a brokerage or a retirement account, you're up 2.7% for the month. Fed board members are also closely watching what's happening with the Trump administration's tariff plan.
If it affects prices, it affects us. I'm not weighing in on what fiscal policy the Congress and the president are going to choose to make. Our signal is getting a little muddied when things are happening that are driving up prices.
Fed board member Austin Goolsbee on CNBC. Some investors bracing for retaliation from Canada and Mexico.
Both countries had been vowing that they were getting their product lists ready. We saw them retaliate in 2018 when tariffs were first put in place on steel and aluminum from Canada and Mexico. The Canadian Energy Ministry has been out there saying that oil tariffs plus retaliation will lift gas prices by some 75 cents a gallon. But the White House says that the president has your back, that they will ensure that consumer prices aren't hit too hard in this.
CNBC's Megan Casella in Washington. Consumer spending came in higher in December than consumer income for the second month in a row, as more Americans are having trouble paying off their credit cards.
Be a mild yellow flag relative to income, net worth, assets. And on those metrics, the numbers don't look quite as ugly. But certainly you've got a bifurcated consumer, and those down the income spectrum, they don't have that traditional savings.
Charles Schwab's Liz Ann Saunders on CNBC. We're going to get the January jobs report this Friday morning. Amazon Music now costs more. Prime members never got it for free, and now they're going to pay $11 a month for the Music Unlimited streaming service. That's $109 a year. Non-Prime members now paying $12 a month. The family plan just hit $20 a month and $200 a year.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Congressman's rhetoric prompts calls for an apology. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Thanks for listening. There are demands for an apology from House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries after comments some say could incite violence. Pamela Furr has the story.
The White House and other Republican leaders are calling for the apology for remarks Jeffries made about pushing back against the Trump administration's agenda.
We are going to fight it legislatively. We are going to fight it in the courts. and we're going to fight it in the streets.
The White House calling it a sick call for violence. Vice President J.D. Vance on Fox News.
I think if you went to Hakeem Jeffries' district and took the people that voted against President Trump, not even the people who voted for him, the people who voted against President Trump, do you want a congressional Democratic leadership that fights in the streets or that makes your life better? Most people think the government exists to make their life better, not show up on TV, criticize the president, and not actually get anything done.
House Majority Whip Tom Emmer of Minnesota also calling on Jeffries to apologize, saying on X it was, quote, inflammatory and extreme rhetoric. But Jeffries isn't apologizing at all. In fact, his office released a statement to News Nation that reads, the notion that Leader Jeffries supports violence is laughable. Republicans are the party that pardons violent felons who assault police officers. Democrats are the party of John Lewis and the right to petition the government peacefully. I'm Pamela Furr.
In case you missed it, keep the winter jacket handy. The groundhog known as Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadows Sunday morning in central Pennsylvania, meaning we could see 6 more weeks of winter weather. Phil's prediction comes on the heels of some of the most extreme weather in recent memory, including a record snowfall for the Florida Panhandle. An analysis by the National Weather Service found that over the last 20 years, Phil was correct just 35% of the time. So if you're an optimist, that means we have a nearly 2 in 3 chance for early spring-like weather. America in the Morning for Monday, February 3rd, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, world leaders and the stock market react to tariff talk, and DEI and the D.C. plane crash. We'll have details.
Some of President Trump's most high-profile cabinet picks yet to get through. I'm Clayton Neville.
Benjamin Netanyahu said he would discuss a range of issues with President Trump when they meet Tuesday. I'm Julie Walker.
The DNC's new leader, the latest with Russia and Ukraine, the start of Black History Month, and raising money and awareness for the LA fire victims.
Was it live or was it AI, the hacker's new tech support trick? I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Who were the big winners at the Grammys? I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. More rain in California means a portion of the state is looking at potential flooding. With the Monday forecast, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
As a plume of enhanced moisture continues to pour in from the Pacific after what was a rather active weekend, the busy pattern continues over a number of the same areas today as the next disturbance pushes on shore. This will mean rain and high elevation snow, both heavy at times, from north of the San Francisco Bay Area toward the Oregon border, where the flood risk remains elevated. On the colder side of the storm to the north, rain showers will continue along the Pacific Northwest coast, but enough cold air will be in place to lead to snow even at plenty of the lower elevations of western Washington, including snow mixing in once again around Seattle. In terms of storm totals for this first round of precipitation since Thursday night, the heaviest snow will be measured in feet through mainly northern parts of the Sierra Nevada and California, up to 3 to 6 feet above 7,000 feet of elevation. For the rainy side, total rainfall may reach a foot in some of the foothills of Northern California, with 2 to 4 inches of rain for both Sacramento and San Francisco through Tuesday night. Outside of that area, the rest of the nation's organized precipitation for today will be confined to the northern states, where a mainly west to east storm track will keep it very busy in terms of the weather pattern for much of this week. A storm centered over Quebec, Canada, will drag a cold front through the upper Midwest and toward the interior Northeast, where steady snow is expected to continue through tonight. 1 to 3 inches of snow is in store from much of the Dakotas through northern lower Michigan and northern sections of both New York and New England, where the highest amounts of 6 to 12 inches may occur in the highest terrain of the Adirondacks and the Green and White Mountains. That same west to east flow carries milder Pacific air across much of the plains and the interior south, with highs 10 to 20 degrees above historical averages today. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Wall Street is battening down the hatches as futures for Monday trading are down sharply after President Trump ordered 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods and another 10% on Chinese-made products. Now, the leaders of Mexico, Canada, and China are all signaling they'll fight back with retaliatory tariffs on American imports. Some Canadian leaders went as far as to say they'll target products from what they call America's red states. Correspondent Donna Warder reports the tariff news isn't sitting well with some members of Congress, with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer speaking to New York's WABC TV saying it's the American people who'll have to pay the price.
He says the tariffs have power, but if you want to go after foreign countries, don't do it at the expense of the American consumer who's going to pay more. That's the number one thing people want, prices to go down. The tariffs make prices go up.
President Donald Trump on Saturday signed an order placing duties of 10% on all imports from China and 25% on imports from Mexico and Canada, except for 10% on Canadian energy. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau fired back, saying his country would put matching 25% tariffs on up to $155 billion in U.S. imports, including alcohol and fruit.
We are all in this together. The Canadian government, Canadian businesses, Canadian organized labor, Canadian civil society, Canada's premiers, and tens of millions of Canadians from coast to coast to coast are aligned and united.
And at a news conference Saturday carried by CTV, he said it's time for Canadians to choose Canada.
It might mean checking the labels at the supermarket and picking Canadian-made products. It might mean opting for Canadian rye over Kentucky bourbon.
And Mexico's president also has ordered retaliatory tariffs. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs says its government firmly deplores and opposes this move and will take necessary countermeasures to defend its legitimate rights and interests. The U.S. tariffs, if sustained, could cause inflation to significantly worsen. I'm Donna Warder.
Vice President J.D. Vance tells Fox News the DEI policies at the FAA are a scandal that led to a lack of air traffic controllers.
The president made very clear that he wasn't blaming anybody, but he was being very explicit about the fact that DEI policies have led our air traffic controllers to be short-staffed. That is a scandal. Thankfully, it's a scandal that the president has stopped.
Vance says that if DEI policies are eliminated, it would allow for the hiring that is needed to properly staff control towers. New Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy echoed those comments, stating that efforts to diversify hiring had affected the quality of the workforce at air traffic control centers. It's widely reported that less than 10% of the nation's airports have enough air traffic controllers to meet a set of standards set by the FAA and the Controllers Union. America in the Morning continues. Some of President Trump's highest-profile cabinet picks are yet to be confirmed, but committee votes are expected this week. Correspondent Clayton Neville is following details.
The confirmation hearings a hot topic on the Sunday talk shows following testimony late last week in Senate committee hearings with HHS pick RFK Jr., Director of National Intelligence nominee Tulsi Gabbard, and Trump's pick for FBI Director Kash Patel. A number of the president's cabinet picks have already been confirmed, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who needed the vote of Vice President J.D. Vance to get through. The VP spoke with Fox News Sunday Morning Futures.
It's not always perfect, but I think the president's confirmation hearings are going much better than they were 8 years ago.
Senators on both sides of the aisle have spent recent weeks vetting and meeting with Trump's picks. Senator John Fetterman was on Fox News.
I treated everyone with respect, and I took the time to listen.
Some Democrats hesitant over former Democrat RFK Jr. for what they call his lack of expertise in the field and over his ideas surrounding vaccines.
I have up to now voted for some Trump appointees, a few. I voted against most, and I'll make my decisions next week. Where Kennedy is right is we are an unhealthy society, a point I've been making, many others have been making for a long time. The bottom line is we have a healthcare crisis in America. We're the only major country not to guarantee healthcare to all people. We pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Our life expectancy is shorter than other countries.
Democratic Senator Bernie Sanders was on CBS's Face the Nation.
The conspiracy theories that he is throwing out is not unlike what we're hearing all over the Trump administration.
Republican Senator John Barrasso told Fox Democrats can't see past Kennedy's decision to team up with Trump.
You can hear the hostility in the voices of the Democrats who are asking him questions, considering him a traitor.
Former Congresswoman and former Democrat Tulsi Gabbard also getting pushback over her past political affiliations and some leaders of foreign countries in the relationship she had with them. But Senator Lindsey Graham now says he'll support Gabbard. And Kash Patel for FBI director yet to be confirmed. Democrats highlighting accusations that Patel praised January 6th rioters, but no Republicans have publicly said they'll vote against Patel being nominated. I'm Clayton Neville.
When we return on America in the Morning, Dems get new leader and an email scam you'll want to be aware of. That and more after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrives in Washington tomorrow to meet with President Trump following the weekend release of more Israeli hostages. Correspondent Julie Walker reports their packed agenda will include the West Bank and Gaza, their neighbors, peace, and Iran.
The decisions we made in the war have already changed the face of the Middle East. Our decisions and the courage of our soldiers have redrawn the map. But I believe that working closely with President Trump, we can redraw it even further.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on his way to Washington Sunday he would discuss a range of issues with President Trump when they meet Tuesday, including Hamas, Iran, and diplomatic relations with Arab countries.
In this meeting, we'll deal with important issues, critical issues facing Israel and our region, a victory over Hamas, achieving the release of all our hostages, and dealing with the Iranian terror axis and all its components, an axis that threatens the peace of Israel, the Middle East, and the entire world.
This comes after Saturday's hostage exchange. American-Israeli Keith Siegel's family ecstatic. He and two others freed by Hamas in exchange for 183 Palestinian prisoners. Negotiations on the second phase of the peace deal, which would end the war and see the remaining 60 or so hostages returned, are set to begin.
The fact that this would be President Trump's first meeting with a foreign leader since his inauguration is telling. I think it's a testimony to the strength of the Israeli-American alliance. It's also a testimony to the strength of our personal friendship.
I'm Julie Walker.
Ken Martin, the head of the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party, was decisively elected chair of the Democratic National Committee over the weekend. Martin, who has spent 14 years leading the Minnesota Party and 8 years as a DNC vice chair, emerged as an early frontrunner in the race with a crowded field. Martin will be tasked with helping guide the party forward as Democrats grapple with the most effective way to challenge President Trump and the GOP majority in the Capitol, but also the stinging defeat of Kamala Harris after her spending of over $1 billion on the campaign and messaging that clearly did not resonate with many Democrat and independent voters. America in the Morning continues. Black History Month is celebrated in February. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports for some, the event takes on new meaning in the wake of President Trump's anti-DEI initiatives.
You need Black History Month more than ever because you need to understand that the world, even though you like to believe it fits into this box, it does not.
Historian and author Carter G. Woodson founded the first History Week under the umbrella of his organization, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, or ASALH. Since then, it's evolved into Black History Month, which every president since Gerald Ford has proclaimed. In 2025, organizations like ASALH don't plan to shift how they celebrate the month, regardless of the Trump administration's views on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs.
And we will continue to celebrate, we will continue the mission and vision of this association throughout the end of time, I will say.
Sylvia Cyrus is the organization's executive director.
Negro History Week started in 1926 without any proclamation from anyone other than the people. And we have commemorated this celebration for 99 years, and we will continue to do so.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
Ukraine strikes back. After Russian forces target Ukrainian power facilities, Ukrainian drones traveled nearly 500 miles into Russian territory, targeting as many as 30 large oil refineries. One strike caused significant damage to the Kustovo facility that produces nearly 5% of Russia's oil annually. The oil raids are presumably part of a wider Ukrainian strategy aimed at depriving Russia of its main source of state revenue and strangling the Russian war effort by choking off its funding. This comes as Forbes is reporting that U.S. sanctions on oil put in place in the final days of the Biden administration is slowing Russia's oil trade with India and China. If you use Gmail, this could impact you. Hackers are using AI to call up unsuspecting Gmail users and trick them into providing personal details like passwords or banking information. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech Report.
Google has issued a security warning about Gmail. AI-powered phone calls are mimicking human voices and have become incredibly realistic. A new report from Forbes has warned that Gmail's 2.5 billion users could be targeted by malicious actors that are employing AI to dupe customers into handing over credentials. In one example, a cybercriminal deploys phone calls posing as Google support, complete with caller ID that looks a lot like it came from Google. The fake support agent will then send an email to the user's Gmail account from what appears to be a legitimate Google email address and asks them to click links for account recovery. In another scam, a hacker sends you an email saying they received notice that you are dead and a family member is trying to recover your account. The fake tech support agent even has details that seem legitimate. If you suspect shenanigans, you should get their callback phone number and supervisor's email address, which will usually scare them off. Pro tip, never click links in emails from someone you don't know. I'm Chuck Palm.
Monday Sports has arrived. Here's Robert Workman.
NBA Sunday, the Cavaliers clobbered the Mavericks 144-101. This was the first game for Dallas since its blockbuster trade over the weekend with the Lakers that sent Luka Doncic to L.A. with Anthony Davis and Max Christie heading to the Mavs. Pistons popped the Bulls 127-119. Chicago is close to completing a three-way deal that would send Zach LaVine to Sacramento and De'Aaron Fox from the Kings to the Spurs, with the Bulls getting a package of players and a first-round draft pick. The NBA trade deadline is on Thursday. A potential deal that would send the Heat's Jimmy Butler to the Warriors is on hold. Butler is refusing to sign a contract extension with Golden State. Elsewhere on Sunday, the Celtics rallied from down 26 to slide past the Sixers, 35 for Jason Tatum. Raptors sank the Clippers, and the Grizzlies beat the Bucks. NHL, Carter Verhaeghe's hat trick led the Panthers over the Islanders 6-3, ending New York's 7-game winning streak. Red Wings zing the Canucks 3-2 in overtime for their 6th victory in a row. Avalanche blanked the Flyers 2-0. 24 saves from Mackenzie Blackwood. Philadelphia has been shut out in each of its last 3 games. Rangers top the Golden Knights 4-2. Jonathan Quick becomes the first U.S.-born goalie to reach 400 wins.
Been lucky enough to play with a lot of great hockey players that value winning, put that above all else. So grateful that been on some great teams over the course of my career, and, this one included.
Victories for the Stars, Ducks, Sabres, Blues, and Flames. The Athletic reports right-hander Jack Flaherty is on his way back to the Tigers on a 2-year deal worth $35 million. Flaherty signed with Detroit last winter, then was traded to the Dodgers in July, where he helped them win the World Series. And Rory McIlroy won the PGA event at Pebble Beach, his 27th career tour victory. That's Monday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. Music's biggest night, when America in the Morning returns after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. Music's biggest night, and it appears it was the women who went home happy. Kevin Carr has a recap of the Grammy Awards.
It was mostly ladies' night at the Grammys on Sunday.
And the Grammy goes to Cowboy Carter.
Beyoncé was one of the big winners. Facing doubt for crushing genres, she ended up taking home Best Country Album and the coveted Album of the Year for Cowboy Carter, which appeared to take her by surprise.
I think sometimes genre is a cold word to keep us in our place as artists.
Sabrina Carpenter won Best Pop Vocal Album for Short and Sweet, and Chappelle Roan won Best New Artist. During her speech, Roan took a chance to advocate for better health care for developing artists.
I would demand that labels and the industry profiting millions of dollars off of artists would offer a livable wage and health care, especially to developing artists.
This wasn't the only time the ceremony took a serious tone. At the opening, host Trevor Noah addressed the Southern California wildfires.
Just a few weeks ago, we weren't sure tonight that this show would even happen. I mean, you don't need me to tell you this, but this city has just been through one of the largest natural disasters.
The LA County Fire Department was on hand to present Album of the Year, and the ceremony raised $7 million from viewers. 9 awards were given out during the broadcast ceremony, with only 2 men on the winners list. One of those was Kendrick Lamar. Much to the chagrin of Drake, Lamar won Song of the Year and Record of the Year for his diss track Not Like Us. Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars won Best Pop Duo/Group Performance, Doechii won Best Rap Album, and Shakira won Best Latin Pop Album. I'm Kevin Carr.
The Fire Aid fundraiser combined music's biggest acts and stories of loss to raise money for LA wildfire relief. A recap from correspondent Jennifer King.
Los Angeles! Fire Aid brought together artists spanning generations and genres to help raise money for Los Angeles area wildfire relief. The 2-venue concert took over Inglewood's Kia Forum and the Intuit Dome. Acts with Los Angeles roots like Billie Eilish and the Red Hot Chili Peppers were featured alongside rising artists like Tate McRae and Jelly Roll, with a reunion of Nirvana topping the list of surprises.
It's going to be up to 10 years before there's some semblance of a new version.
Alanis Morissette has been hosting friends who lost their homes.
It's easy to forget when you're not right there. I had the horror and privilege of being able to drive through Pacific Palisades a couple days ago, and seeing it in person was sobering and horrifying.
Survivors told their stories, and behind the performers, images of firefighters and devastation appeared on screen.
I stepped onto the grounds and I fell to my knees and I wailed. I had not cried like that since I was 15 years old, and I was told that my father had just died.
I think we all need a lot of things right now. But I think something we may also need is time.
All proceeds will benefit those affected by the fires. I'm Jennifer King.
America in the Morning for Monday, February 3rd, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.